My name is Beth Sastre. I'm the commercial horticulturist for Virginia Cooperative Extension in Loudoun. And that means that I work with all the farmers here in Loudoun County. Virginia Cooperative Extension is an extension of Virginia Tech and Virginia State University. And we do research-based education. That's our purpose. So today I'm going to talk about pesticide safety and spider lanternfly. So first of all, what is a pest? And a pest is any living organism that is undesirable and or causes injury or harm to people, their property, and their environment. So anything that you don't want and is causing a problem is a pest. A pest can be one in one situation, or it can be in another situation. For example, let's talk about weeds. There are people that like the moss that is growing within the bricks. For them, it's not a pest, but for the other people, it can be a pest. So when we talk about pest, it depends on the preferences from people and also the damage that they can cause. So what are pesticides? Based on the state and federal regulations, pesticide is an economic poison and is any substance used for controlling, preventing, destroying, repelling, or mitigating the damage caused by any pest. So what is important to know before using a pesticides? We call that decision making. And first of all, we need to know if the problem is caused by a pest. And how we are going to know that? So we have something that are called factors that are abiotic and biotic factors. So what are these? Abiotic factors are those, abiotic factors are those that depends on too much or too little. And I have list here is too much or too little light, heat, water, moisture, nutrients, compaction, herbicide drift, and damage, smoke, pollution, heavy metals. And biotic, as the name says, is everything that is alive: arthropods, rodents, nuisance birds, wildlife, nematodes, fungal and bacterial diseases, weeds, mammals. So everything that is alive, we call it biotic factors. Everything that has not life, we call it abiotic factors. So based on the description, the definition of pest is any living organism. So when we have problems about on a plant, we need to be sure that what is causing that problem is a biotic factor. So now we know that it's a biotic factor, but then we have to learn what kind of pest it is. And when we say pest, we already saw that it can be a insect, it can be a fungi, a bacteria, a weed. So we need to identify that. Let's say it's an insect. So what type of insect is that? And why is important to know exactly what type of insect is that? It's because insecticides are very, there are some that are specific insecticides, meaning they will just control one specific type of pest. And then insecticides have different ingredients that can work for some insects and not for others. So we will learn that part. Then is the problem severe enough to require an action? So let's say if we just see one spider lanternfly here, is that enough for us to apply an insecticide? Or what about if we see that 30% of the plant is covered with insects? Is that enough? Maybe yes. And then I'm going to be more specific here with insects, but we already know that pest is any insect, any bacteria, virus, nematode. So all those are pests. In this case, I want to be more specific, and I want to be talking about insects. So can the pest, the insect, be controlled at this stage of its life or growth cycle? So every insect has a life cycle, and every life cycle has different stages. Each stage is different, And it's different because of the size, and it's different because of how susceptible or vulnerable that insect is with a reference when we are using insecticides. So learning the life stage of each insect is important for us to know which one is the weakest link on that life cycle. And then what control options are available? Is pesticide use the best management option? And we call that integrated pest management. So there are some insects that based on the life stage they are on, we will use one specific insecticide because that is the one that is going to be controlling better at that stage. And then let's say we are comparing nymphs versus adults. So nymphs will respond to a pesticide application faster than an adult because their bodies are not, they have something that is called exoskeleton. So it's not as thick as an adult. So we know that a nymph, which is an immature adult, is going to be more susceptible to certain pesticides and the amount of pesticides than an adult. So that will be the weakest link on a life cycle of this insect. Are there effective and legal and manageable chemical control options for this site and situation? So how we know if they are effective or legal and manageable chemicals control for this situation? So everything that we need to know for this is on the pesticide label. Virginia Department of Agriculture is the one that approves pesticides use in Virginia. Every state has that capability. They will approve pesticides that can be used. So we cannot use a recommendation from another state if the pesticides that they are recommending are not approved here in Virginia. Then is pesticide use cost effective? Is the plant or damage observed worth the control effort? So I don't know how many of you are aware of spiral lanternfly, especially in Pennsylvania. And if you have seen pictures of trees covered, like thousands of spiral lanternfly covering the tree. And the tree is already, the health of the tree is already going down. So is that really an option? Is the use of pesticides worth if we see that the tree health is going down and is covered with a spiral lanternfly? Maybe yes, maybe no. In this case, I will say yes, because spiral lanternfly is a nuisance invasive insect. And I'm going to talk more about this. So we said yes, the problem cause, the problem that is, what is causing this problem on our plants is caused by a biotic factor, and we said yes, is the spiral lanternfly in this case. So before buying anything, we need to know what are the approved pesticides here in Virginia and read the label. I will recommend you read the label of those pesticides first. And it's better if you do it at home. The label is the law and is a contract that you are accepting, and it's a contract between EPA, between the company that is making that pesticide and the user. In this case, will be us. So always read the label before buying it, before using it, and after you use the pesticide. And here's a typical label for a homeowner. And some of you that have been, I think all of us use pesticides. I will ask how many of you have read the label, and how many of you have seen that there are very short labels like this one, or very long labels like a booklet. So how many of us will say, yes, I want to read the label? None of us. However, as I said, it's a contract and we must read the label. So on this slide, you see these purple squares or rectangles, and each one talks about the specific parts of the label. So the first one is the signal word, that is that is going to tell us how toxic that pesticide is. The second one is the active ingredient, and the active ingredient is the product that is going to be killing the insect. With the active ingredient, there are other ingredients that are inert ingredients that are not sometimes, many times we don't know exactly what it is, but because it's not the pesticide, EPA does not enforce the product, the company that is making that pesticide, to list what type of inner ingredient is there. And sometimes inner ingredients may be more toxic than the pesticide active ingredient by itself. Also, we see here the storage and disposal, and it will tell us how this product has to be stored. Sometimes they will tell us about the temperature. It will tell us also what is going to happen with leftovers. So it's information that we need to know. Then a very important information is the EPA registration number. If there is an accident, an exposure due to pesticide, the first thing that you need to do is call help poison control and also 911. But the thing is that you need to know where the EPA number is, because they will ask you for that. And based on that, they are going to go to something called safety data sheet, and they will have the information of what to do in case of emergency. Also, there's going to be the directions for use, and it's going to tell you specifically how to use that insecticide, where, which plants you can use it, for which insects you can use it. So if the plant or the insect is not listed on that insecticide, you cannot use it, okay? There are some special labels or special products that some institutions, research institutions or educational institutions will request to Virginia Department of Agriculture in case of an emergency, in this case, lanternfly. And they have a permit that is, I think, 23C. So they release a special permit to use that insecticide. Therefore, the name of the insect may not be listed, but if it is a special permit, you can use it. Then it will tell you the precautionary statements. How can the product be used safely? It means what I need to wear when I'm using that product. And then first aid, and this is the basic first aid that we can follow. So we took the first thing, that is signal word. So what is signal word? Signal word tells us the toxicity level of each pesticide, and I have some examples here. So for example, this is a product that was recently approved for spotted lanternfly. The active ingredient on this product is not on our recommendation list of products that work well with spotted lanternfly. It's been approved by Virginia Department of Agriculture, but we don't have it on our publication. So be aware of this and read the comments for this product. So going back to the signal word, this one has the word caution. I will explain each one of them, but I want you to look at this. So the second one, oops, well, it says warning, but also you will set I didn't move it, but this is for weed control, and it's something that you cannot use because the concentration of active ingredient is high and is for agricultural use. Then we have this Carlon, that is another herbicide, and it says danger. And then we have Mockup, which is a granulate nematicide, and it says peligro, it says poison, danger, poison. And this also says restricted use pesticide. What it means is if now that we can access everything online, you may find pesticides, any type of pesticides that said restricted use pesticide. What that means is that you cannot or you shouldn't be buying that pesticide if you don't have a certification. The purpose of having a certification means that you have been taking a training to safely use that pesticide. You see that it's a danger poison and it has a skull. So it doesn't mean that it's very effective to control the pest, but it's very toxic for us and wildlife and the environment. So here we have the signal word and toxicity class. And you saw the previous slide. We have caution, another caution that is more is between 500 and 5,000, and this is we have something that is called LD 15 milligrams per kilogram. I will explain this after I finish this signal words. Then we have warning that is between 50 and 500 milligrams. And then we have danger poison that is between 0 and 50. So the oral LD50, LD means lethal dose. And it means that they did an experiment with rats and they gave them orally a concentration of a pesticide. And then that concentration killed 50% of the population. So and the concentration is measured in milligrams per kilogram of weight. So if we have a pesticide that has caution, it means that the toxicity rating is low. And sometimes it can be a lethal dose between a pint to more than a quarter. We have another, the caution that has slight toxicity rating can be 2 tablespoons to a pint. And then we have warning that could be something like a moderate that is 2 teaspoons to 2 tablespoons. And then we have danger poison that is a drop to a teaspoon. So the purpose here is to know that the signal word will tell us how toxic that pesticide that we are using is. Now, how are we exposed to pesticides? There are 4 routes of exposure, and it's through our nose, through our mouth, through our skin, and through our eyes. So if we know that pesticides can be enter into our body through those routes, we need to protect those, correct? How we are going to protect them? So the pesticide label is going to tell us what to use. Here, I show you how the pesticides enter to our body. Now, this slide shows what are the most sensitive parts in our body to a pesticide. So, for example, you see the forearm is 1, and it is 1 milligram per square centimeter. And then if you compare with the genital area, this is almost 12. And then the second one highest will be the ear channel, and then the forehead. So what it tells us, for example, sometimes we are spraying pesticides and maybe we are not wearing gloves and we are just, wearing sandals, shorts. And we are spraying and then with no gloves, and then there are mosquitoes that are around our ears, and then we start touching our ears, or we are sweating because it's super hot, and then we are cleaning our forehead with our hands, or we finished and then we need to use the restroom, and then we go without washing our hands first. So imagine how we are accumulating those pesticides that we were exposed in our body through different ways. So here is another example of toxicity based on different type of insecticides. So we have insecticidal soap, which is which is organic, and then we have pyrethrins. We have pyrethrins is an extract of the chrysanthemums. and then we have bifenthrin, carbaryl, dinotefuran, and imidacloprid. So which one of these do you think is the more toxic? So in this case, the more toxic is going to be bifenthrin because it says the lethal dose, acute oral lethal dose is 265 milligrams per kilogram. If we compare that with insecticidal soap, it's going to be 16,900. So um, the toxicity of this, remember, is going to be based on the signal work. So as I said, we need to protect ourselves because we know that the pesticides enter our body through 4 different ways. And we know that some parts of our body are more susceptible to pesticides. We should always be using the PPE. And this is something that we call basic PPE for homeowners, and I will always say, please be very careful. Always use cover your head, cover your eyes, wear shirts, long sleeve shirts, long pants, socks, shoes, and gloves. And you may say, it's super hot. I don't want to wear that. Well, remember how pesticides can affect us, how they enter, how we are susceptible to them, and we are different. Each one of us is different. So each one of us will respond totally different to a pesticide exposure. And also, the best way to know what is the right PPA that we need to use is to read the label. The label is going to tell us what to wear when we are applying that pesticide. And also, every pesticide, every product that you are going to be using requires a different PPE. And therefore, you need to read the label. Don't think that because, I'm using this PPE for this product, I can use the same. And I can tell you that for homeowners is not that the purpose of pesticides used for homeowners, the concentration is not as high as with the ones that farmers have to use. Maybe the pesticide will say, don't wear gloves. And there are some that said that. But pesticides are chemical substances that are designed to kill any living organism. And it may affect us in a small or large scale. So think about that, please. So how much are you exposed to? It depends what is the length of a time of exposure, how often do you use that pesticide, and how are you exposed? And when they said how are you exposed, is it was through your skin, which is the most common exposure to pesticides because we are handling and we are wearing shorts, so skin is the one that is more common. And then let's say you are spraying herbicide every week. First we need to know if that is allowed. The pesticide label will tell us how many times we can use that pesticide, what is the frequency that we can use it, and there is something called a restricted interval. Restricted intervals tell us how long we have to wait from the moment that we spray the pesticide till the moment that the toxicity is lower. So you need to learn that as well. The other thing is use the right amount of pesticides. Luckily for homeowners, we have something that is called ready to use. So it's something most of the time are sprayed or something that you hook up with your to your hose and you use it. But if there is something that you have to mix, then you need to calculate how much you need to use. So therefore, we always recommend use the pesticide that is the easiest to use with the lowest concentration. The goal of this is to effectively kill, in this case, lanternfly, and not release any more insecticide into the environment that is necessary. Also, when we are using insecticide, we have different formulations, therefore different directions. We have different active ingredients, so different directions. I will always say read labels first and preferably online. Uh, Sometimes when we go to the store to buy a pesticide, we are holding the bottles and we are reading the labels there. But remember, those are pesticides. They may have leaked, and sometimes some pesticides can go through the plastic because the products that they have are made to dissolve some things, and it can be a leaking, or maybe they were in a box where one of those just leak completely. So you need to be aware that if you are doing that, wash your hands after that. I will say, please read the labels first, and then you decide at home which one is the one that you're going to be using. And then if you have to go to the store and you're going to hold it, wash your hands. Also, sometimes if you are using a pesticide that requires other equipment, like a sprayer, so you need to read the label first. That way you know if what is in the label is something that you have at home. And I say calculate the amount of pesticide that you need before you purchase. And for that, you need to measure how big is the area where you are going to be applying. So environmental hazards. There are different type of labels with different environmental hazards, but most of the time, we will see things that are pesticide and pollinators, and you see the pollinator box there. It means that it's very dangerous, toxic for that type of insect. And then also be aware of areas that are sensitive areas, like schools, houses, everywhere where people are or wildlife exists, which is everywhere, most of it. And then protect streams, wetlands, and water sources. There are some pesticides that specifically said do not spray these on wetlands, and be very careful using insecticides so they don't contaminate our water resources or harm aquatic creatures. And some of the pesticides that you may be using for spider lanternfly or to kill Tree of Heaven, that you will learn a little bit more in other slides, says that the label will tell you be very careful when you are applying near water sources. Other thing that you need to be aware is pesticide resistance. And what is this? So it's more common on pests that have more than one life cycle. And it means that you spray, this is the first generation, you spray the pesticides and 98% of the insects are gonna die, okay? If there is another generation on that year, the 2% left have resistance, and they are gonna pass on that resistance to the next generation. And what is gonna happen is that that pesticide that you were using is not gonna be effective anymore. And that is something that is happening very common and is more frequent now. So in order to avoid pesticide resistance, read the label, and then there is something that is called mode of action. Every active ingredient has a mode of action. The label, the name, the commercial name of that pesticide doesn't say anything about the active ingredient. So you always have to look at that, to look at the active ingredient. There may be two products with different commercial names, but the active ingredient is exactly the same. If you think that you are changing the mode of action of that pesticide by using a different commercial name, is not right. The mode of action is how that specific active ingredient is going to act at cellular level or in the pest, and it can be breaking down the cellular wall, or interfering on the hormone production, or interfering in the ribosome. So that's the way they act. So there are different type of active ingredients that are going to be acting in the same way. So even though you think that you are changing mode of actions because the name of commercial name of the product and the active ingredient are different, you may not do that. So this is a topic a little bit more complex, but if you want to learn more about mode of actions, you can Google mode of actions of insecticides. And what is happening is that now pesticides have a number on top of the commercial name, and it will be a number or a letter. So if you have two different insecticides and the number and the letter are different, that means that they have different mode of actions. So what we need to do when we are spraying pesticides and be aware of toxicity levels. So we have different type of pesticides. And the first one what I have here is biopesticides. Biopesticides are those pesticides that are coming from living organisms. And in this case are insect, fungi, bacteria, nematodes. They can be predators, meaning they are gonna eat the pest, or they can be parasitoids, meaning they are gonna lay down eggs on the pest. Then we have organic or organic that can be natural or mineral. And these are can be extracts for plants or also from fungi or bacteria, or can be elements like a copper, sulfur. Sometimes we think that organic pesticides are not as toxic or bad for the environment as the conventional. But sometimes that is wrong. They break down in the environment faster, and therefore we need to use them more frequently. But also they are not selected, meaning if we are using an insecticide, we are not just killing the pest that we want to control. We are killing every insect that is there, beneficial or pest. The same can be true for conventionals. However, conventional pesticides have developed type of pesticides that can be more selective, meaning they are going to act just on this type of insect that their energy is working through this channel. So, and they last longer. So we need to read, but they stay in the environment longer. So that is I think the big difference. Organic pesticides, they degrade very fast. Conventionals, they stay longer. The other thing is having a healthy soil can break down faster and more efficient pesticides. So keep that in mind, please. So here you see something that we call integrated pest management. And integrated pest management uses all the tools in the toolbox, starting from cultural control. So this one, you will see the green, which is like the light, traffic lights. Green is good and is to promote plant health, to remove the favorite host. In this case, we are going to start just being more specific at the spiral lanternfly. So to promote the host, to remove the hosts that are more favored by spiral lanternfly, and don't assume that all damage is from spiral lanternfly. So we haven't seen trees die because spiral lanternfly. We may have seen some tree of heaven, which is the main host, but not trees dying for that. What is going to happen is going to be another stress factor for our trees that are our rarest stress. So cultural control is more important, plant health, soil health, those are the basic. And then we're going to have the physical and mechanical control. and that is gonna be use tree traps, scrape squash eggs, swat stomp nymphs on adults. So that is when you're gonna be using your hands, your feet to control it. Then, but sometimes there is a point where that doesn't work. Then you go to biological controls and is support natural enemies by providing native habitat for them and releasing predators. Releasing predators is not currently recommended for spotted lanternflies since this is new, and there are predators that they have seen are working, but they need to study first, and then they need to be approved for us to use. And then we have the reduced toxicity chemical controls, and in this case, it's going to be biorational or the organic. And it says start with least toxic option first, including insecticidal soaps, which are effective. Then neem and botanical oils, pyrethrum. And as I said, they have very little residual activity. So it means that you have to spray them more frequently. And the last one is the chemical control. And as I said, EPA is the only one that can register pesticides. If you are buying pesticides online, be sure that that pesticide is approved by EPA. And the way that you can do it, you go to Virginia Department of Agriculture, pesticides, and then you're going to find a link there where you can see if the pesticide that you want to use is approved. However, you don't have to guess that because I'm going to give you the pesticides that can be used for spotted lanternfly. One very important thing, don't use home remedies. They are not safe for human and pests and for your plants. They can be more toxic for insects. And they can be flammable and they are illegal. So please don't do that. So as I mentioned, spotted lanternfly and all the insects have a life cycle. So it's important to recognize what stages and what months that life cycle is present. And then based on that, we have a management and timeline for spotted lanternflies. So during the whole year, don't move anything that has spotted lanternfly. And most of these are going to be everything that is kept outside. Scraped smash eggs, and that is going to be between January and May. And I will say here, May is a little bit late because by May, they all already hatch. And then from September to December, we can use traps, tree traps from May to October. However, when there is a high infestation, the traps are going to help us to trap those insects that we can reach as high as we put the traps. But the insects are not going to be just there. They are going to be all over your trees. So that is a good tool, but it's not going to be 100% effective. Then you can use contact insecticides, and that can be from May to October. And like the word says, contact. The pesticide, the insecticide has to contact the insect, otherwise they are not going to die. Then we have something that is called systemic application. In this case, we are very specific about imidacloprid. Systemic application means when you inject the pesticide, insecticide in this case, into the trunk of the soil, that plant is going to absorb the pesticide and it's going to move it through the vascular system all the way up and all the way down to the roots. So it means that that plant is going to become a poison, the whole thing. Spotted lanternfly feeds from sap. It doesn't eat the leaves, it doesn't eat the fruit. It's going to be just the sap. So the sap is nutrients and water. And the vascular system is like our veins. So it moves nutrients and waters all the way up and down. And when we apply a systemic insecticide, that insecticide moves through the vascular system. And it means, everything that is there, nutrients and water becomes poisons. And then we have another, and that one, the imidacloprid can be used from May till July. And then we have another one that is systemic and is dinotefuran, which can be used from July to September. So these biopesticides are being studied. And then the first two that we have here, and I'm not going to pronounce the name of the first one because I don't want to be ashamed of my pronunciation, but the Barbary species, yes. So the first two are already endemic in our region. The problem is that the beneficials, the insects that are beneficials, they are always by themselves. They don't reproduce as much as pests. And then when you have, let's say we have an infestation of a pest, the amount of beneficials that we need to control that pest is not existent at that moment. So it takes time for those beneficials to build up and compete. Therefore, we need to use pesticides. And when we use pesticides, those beneficials are the first one that go. And usually the first one that you see is a very tiny wasp. Well, the three insects that I have here are wasps, and they are super tiny. Therefore, they are more susceptible to pesticides. So the amounts of LD50 that they need to kill are very, very small. Then we have the Barbary species, and that is a fungi that has been used for other the former gypsy mold that now is called spongy mold. So it has been used for that, and they have researchers have found that a spiral lanternfly has been infested with that. The problem with when we are using this type of biopesticides is that they need specific temperature and humidity to reproduce. And so therefore, we depend on the environment for this type of biopesticides to control a pest. And the two wasps that you see at the bottom, those are the ones that are being studied by USDA. The problem with this is, a study of a non-native insect to use it as a biocontrol takes many years because we don't want to introduce something that we don't know how it's going to respond to the environment. And they have to be sure that it's just going to be attacking the pests that we want to control. And for example, on your right, the corner on your right, you see that is a nymph of spotted lanternfly with an egg of the Drinus species, which is the wasp. And that egg is going to hatch and it's going to start eating inside the nymph. But imagine how many wasps we need to control of those. So organic insecticides for control spiral lanternfly. And I just realized I didn't put a picture of the spiral lanternfly and the life cycle, but I'm going to show it to you later. So the organic insecticides for control spiral lanternfly, we have neem oil, we have natural pyrethrins, insecticidal soap, horticultural oils, and paraffinic oils, and dormant oils. And also, these type of organic controls are very specific on how to use them. You will see that the method of application for most of them can be on the trunks, the branch, and the foliage. For dormant oil, it says do not apply to the foliage. Why? Because it can kill or fry the plant if we apply it on the foliage. And then you will see also that the best time to control for each one is on the last column. So most of them are from May to early July. And the dormant oil is very specific on egg masses. For example, we were talking about organic insecticides. In this case, natural pyrethrins, insecticidal soap, they have to be applied more frequently because they are gonna run out when with rain and also with the sun. So that is the difference with the organic insecticides. Then we have contact insecticides. As I said, they as the organic, they have to touch the insect in order to kill it. And we have bifenthrin, carbaryl, cetacepermethrin, malathion, etaflavelinite, plus tebuconazole. I cannot give you the commercial name of these insecticides because we do not endorse. but you know that this is the active ingredient, and you know that every pesticide label has the active ingredient. So we also have the method of application and the timing for best control. Then we have the systemic insecticide, and as I mentioned, systemic insecticide, they have to be sprayed to the trunk, injection to the trunk, or injection to the soil. And we have dinotefuran and imidacloprid, which are the most effective. And says the method of application: soil drench or trunk spray, and then trunk injection. And the best time for controlling is for the dinotefuran from July to September. So right now is the best time for those. And imidacloprid is after flowering to July. And this is soil drench, and trunk injection is from July to September. One thing that is very important, and the label will tell you, you cannot apply insecticides when plants are in bloom, okay? Because what is going to happen is you're going to kill many insects. So before going to Tree of Heaven, I'm going to tell you that spiral lanternfly is an insect that has more than 100 hosts, being Tree of Heaven one of the preferred hosts. And also grapes, black walnut, oaks, maples, Virginia creeper, and poison ivy. So there are many plants that we have here and they like, but Tree of Heaven is an invasive, non-native plant. And research has shown that Tree of Heaven, which is from China as well, pass on the some of the alkaloids that this tree has to the new generations of spiral lanternfly. So the alkaloids make them untasteful. Therefore, we don't have many predators that can eat them because they taste bad. So as a proactive approach to control spiral lanternfly, we are recommending to kill Tree of Heaven. So to control Tree of Heaven, we are we have a calendar, and it says at bud break, which happens in April. Then flowering and seeding, which happens from end of May to July. And then we have the foliar or stem treatment, which is going to be from July to middle of October. And then we have the cutting after treatment from January to April, and then mid-November to December. So one of the things that are very important is if you have spiral lanternfly in your jar, you need to treat your plants first, and then you cut them. Never cut plants that have spiral lanternfly and throw those cuttings to your backyard or take them to the landfill. And especially if you are hiring a landscaping company, please tell them that they need to treat first and then remove the plants and take them to the land. How we do it through stem injection, basal spray, or foliar spray. And what to use glyphosate. And glyphosate is recommended for seedlings and for when we have small plants, small Tree of Heaven. We call it clones. So that is good for those. And then we have trichoplyr ester 1.5 and trichoplyr amine 2%. So those are used mostly basal spray and foliar spray. And the way that we use it is based on the size of the tree. I will recommend to contact us to learn more about this, but this is just, you don't need to remember, but if you have Tree of Heaven, you know now that you have to treat it before cutting it. If you just cut it or you try to dig it out, what is going to happen is that you are promoting more growth. It's like bamboo. You just cut it and more of them are going to come back. And when a spiral lanternfly is hatching, they are going to go first to tree of heaven. And also when they are mating, before laying eggs, they are going to go down, they are going to go look for tree of heaven. It's said that tree of heaven, if you kill tree of heaven, you are not going to kill spiral lanternfly. They are going to continue with their development, but they are going to be weakened because they don't have the alkaloids, and also they are going to be exposed to other predators. So if you don't know anything about spiral lanternfly, I already presented at talk about spiral lanternfly, and it's on the archives of a Loudoun County Public Library. You can learn more about that. But you will see this video, hopefully. Nope, it didn't run. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can. Nope. Well, the purpose of this is to show, this is the adult of the spiral lanternfly. It is feeding on grapes. Spiral lanternfly will not sting or bite humans or pests. They will not eat the fruit or vegetables, but they will feed on the sap. So here, all the spiral lanternflies that you see here are on the canes of the grape. And unfortunately, you cannot see it here because the video is not running, but they feed on big amounts of sap, and that sap is excreted by them in form of honeydew, which is a clear, sweet substance. And they excrete a lot. Then that substance is colonized by fungi, and it's called sooty mold. So you're going to start seeing first the leaves very bright, like, on the lower, on the bottom of this picture, you see that there is a leaf that it shows like a watery, but when you go and see them, it looks like a clear bright, and then you start seeing, as the time passes on and the weather is hotter, fungi starts developing on those leaves, and it's called sooty mold. And then sooty mold is black, and what happens is it interferes with the photosynthesis of the leaves. And as you know, photosynthesis is a chemical reaction through that the plants use to produce food. So what happens is weakening the plants because it's feeding from the sap, but also because it's not allowing the leaves to produce or to do as much photosynthesis as they can to produce carbohydrates. So what we are asking for spiral lanternfly, and you're going to see it here at adult, is squish it, take a picture, and report it. So this is an adult, and this is what you may start seeing now. And it's an adult that I squished. And we said, please, before removing any plant material infested with spiral lanternfly, it's necessary to treat it with insecticide. Do not move infested untreated plants out of the original location. So for more information and to report any site, go to Loudoun.gov spiral lanternfly, and I have the QR. I'm going to leave it here for a few seconds. That way you can take a picture, and it's going to take you to our page. And then if you are not sure if it is a spiral lanternfly or tree of heaven, or you want to know more about spiral lanternfly or tree of heaven, please send an email and with good quality pictures to identify tree of heaven or spiral lanternfly to loudounmg@vt.edu. And this is my last slide. So if you have questions, please let me know. Let's see if Mike.
Hi, Beth. Thank you so much for that very thorough presentation. A lot of great information. Does anybody have any questions for Beth? before we leave? Any questions about your own yard or anything that she spoke about? I'd be happy to relay the question to you. You can get some advice.
You can see me now. So let me see. I have some insects here, and let's see if I can show it to you. They are dead. So I don't know if you can see them here. So this is an adult. Okay. It's not clear, but I bet you are going to have the opportunity to see it in your backyard. And then I have nymphs, which are going to be very hard for you to see it. This is a nymph that is in the fourth stage. It's red with white dots. And then I have nymph here. And maybe this is the first stage, which is very hard to see. And my video just went out. And then I have something that we call gravid females. So gravid females means that they are full with eggs. And this is how they are going to look like. Yellow, like a bees, correct?
Mm.
So this is a female that is full of eggs. And here is a female that just emerged as an adult. So you have them both. So when you start seeing them like this, it means that they are ready made and they are ready to lay down eggs. Every female will lay down between 3 and 5 egg masses. Every egg mass has between 50 and 80 eggs.
My goodness.
So imagine how fast they reproduce.
Wow. I have a question for you, Beth. What do you do with Japanese beetles hitting the grapes?
Well, usually farmers do not care about Japanese beetles if the vineyard is older than 3 years old, because the plants are already established and they are healthy. When the plants are younger, they need to spray because the Japanese beetles are going to eat the few leaves that those plants have. Therefore, photosynthesis is not going to be possible. So the first 3 years of a vineyard, they have to be very careful and use insecticides to control Japanese beetles. After that, some farmers, so wine growers said that is good because they start eating the top of the canes, which they have to top them anyway. So in this case, is helping them to control that growth.
Which insecticide?
It's gonna be so the person that is asking is that a homeowner or a wine grower?
Are you a homeowner or a homeowner?
So for that one, I would recommend, I don't know exactly what homeowners can use. We have a guide. We can give them that information. If they send an email to Loudoun Master Gardeners at vt.edu, they will give the answer.
So that's loudounmg@vt.edu.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? About using pesticides, what kind, what you're dealing with in your own home, safety,
Say again, please.
bugs.
What was the
Right.
question?
No, there wasn't another question.
Okay. So homeowners, if just let me ask you something. Do you think, so we already know that a pesticide is something that is killing living organisms. So do you think we have at home usual, pesticides that we use regularly and we are not aware that they are pesticides? Well, say we have chemical products that we are not aware that they are pesticides and we use them regularly? What about
Like what,
chlorine?
Beth?
Chlorine. What about that?
Chlorine, yeah.
When you read the label, what does it say? It kills 99% of bacteria and something else. What about Lysol?
Mm. Yeah.
What about Pine Sol? So those are pesticides as well. If they
Mm.
said it killed something, they are pesticides. So always read the label. Wash your hands, very important. We know that pesticides enter in our body through different ways. I hope you remember, but also we know that our body has areas that are more susceptible than others.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Beth. This was really useful information. And for all you out there, we are recording this and we will put it up on Loudoun County Public Library's YouTube page in a day or two. So you can watch it again there if you'd like to see it or recommend it to your friends. And you can also check the Loudoun County Public Library for some more materials or advice on this subject. And of course, get in touch with the Loudoun Master Gardeners, loudonmg@vt.edu. So much for joining us. Beth, thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
You're very
Bye-bye.
welcome, Lorraine. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.